This is Self-Care Wednesdays. Yes, you have made it to the middle of the week. Thank you all for listening and, tuning in with me. Just as I stated, I like to do, just a little bit of a, check-in during the middle of the week, just to see if, I'm straight, and, you all don't have to do that. But however, that's just something that I do, just to see that I am straight. And you are listening to the Creative Lips Podcast. Yes, and I am your host, Regina. Yes, and this is episode 41, guys. Yes, this is episode 41. I once again, I thank you all for tuning in with me to this episode of Self-Care Wednesdays today. And, I'm going to be talking about, a specific, crucial steps that you need to take in regards to, what you should do, when you get laid off or when you get fired. What are the crucial steps that you need to do that first week right after you get laid off or fired from your job? So once and always, I always like to do this before every episode. I like to talk about self-affirmations and, just basically talk a little bit, about uplifting and, giving you guys some good words, of encouragement. And, just to basically say to you all, who all is listening to this episode. Only you know what you're going through. Only you know what obstacles that is faced before you. And, and I hope and pray that whatever you are going through, whatever trials, tribulations, anything, well, no matter what it is, I hope and pray that you will make it through. You will make it out of, whatever you are trying to get out of, you are trying to overcome, you are trying to start, you are trying to stop, no matter what it is. You will make it through, out of it victorious and phenomenally, guys. Yes, guys. And, and I also want to say too, before I get into those crucial steps, talking about this specific, topic that I want to talk about today, I want to also let you all know that I am in no way, no shape, no form, a licensed psychologist or a licensed therapist. Okay, so, I like to put that out there because all of my steps and tips that I say on my Self-Care Wednesdays, anything that has anything to do with either, psychology, therapy, or any type of mental health, I want to put that out there just strictly based off of my own experience and just my own opinion. Yes, things that I have been, that I went through in my life and things that I have actually experienced, you know what I'm saying? So, and these are some of the things that I did to, to combat, to help myself, to get myself through. So I just wanted to put that out there in the universe and also let you all know about that. All right. So now, this week's, have been, trying for some, just like I've been saying all along, it's kind of hard for some to get through. And for some, it's really easy for some. Some have been making it through, and for those who have been holding it down, yo, big ups to y'all. Real rap. I give y'all much love and respect, to all of you that's been holding it down, through this quarantine, through this lockdown. Some states, just like I said, before my previous episodes, some states have been opening up, and, slowly but surely. But for those who are, who are still trying to, struggle through it, even if you're opening up, your state is opening up, or your country, wherever you're at, if you are still trying to make it through, because you lost your income, you don't have any income anymore now, you either, file for unemployment, or, and if you did file for unemployment, you're still waiting for your unemployment. And then you have some out there that's still waiting for their government handout checks, their stimulus payments. You know what I'm saying? You got some people that haven't received it yet. And these were issued out in April. So you have some that haven't received it as of yet. And for those who are struggling, I have 5 crucial steps on what to do when you get laid off or when you get fired, So now, I'm going to be sharing my experience on how to survive the unexpected of being laid off or even fired from a job, whether you see it coming from a mile away or it comes as a complete shock. It comes as a complete shock. Being laid off or fired can rock your world. Yes, it can rock your world. And, it can also turn it upside down for the worse for some. But, with the right steps, if you can put in place the right steps, if this does happen in your case, if you can put together the right steps, you can bounce back and find an equal or better position or opportunity or a change of career. And of course the old saying goes, y'all, what I'm saying? Shit happens. So fucking yes, that shit happens. And I can honestly say that shit happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that shit happened to me. I was let go from my job. Yes, I was. So, as I always say, I am being transparent on my podcast. I'm going to be talking about some real shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be doing the fluff. No, none of the fluff. None of that. You know what I'm saying? I just want to give you all the real, the truth, steps that you can, maybe these steps you can listen to and it might be helpful to you. Maybe 1 step, 2 steps, or maybe all of them, or, even none of them. It doesn't matter. This episode is very, very helpful. And I feel as though that, if these steps can be beneficial for me, it could be beneficial for you. You never know. You would just have to just listen and see, So I'm going to be sharing, 5 crucial steps that you need to do, the first week. The first week after. It's very crucial that you do these the first week after you have been either let go or fired from your job. So, I want to, get into, the first steps. All right. So now the first step that I want to talk about is, take a break. Take a break, guys. Take a break and plan and organize. Yes. plan and organize. Just take that break, because layoffs, as I mentioned, before, layoffs and, getting fired, we often, are unexpected, about that. And for some, some might see it a long time coming, what I'm saying? And it could leave you feeling vulnerable. It could leave you feeling a little bit vulnerable. Immediately after it happens, do something kind for yourself. Call a friend, grab a drink or two, or maybe three, in some cases, what I'm saying? Sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we need to, extend that, but if you don't drink, then just take a break, take a breather, get a massage. You can do that. You can also take a hike in a beautiful place, like go out into nature, and breathe, just take a moment and just breathe, and then also you can make an appointment with a therapist. I also talked about, now that we are home for some of us, that who are still in quarantine, and you can do a therapist with telehealth. You can do a therapist either doing a video call. You can also talk to a therapist over the phone. You can talk to a therapist through email. And also there are a lot of apps out there that you can, that you can use. What I'm saying? You can utilize a lot of apps out there to talk to someone. And even if it's just not a therapist, talk to someone that is close to you, that you can share this information without being judged or, critical, just try to talk about it to someone, in regards to that. Because this is one of the most important things to do after being laid off or fired or let go from your job, because it'll help you relax. You can come to terms with what happened and prepare mentally for the next steps. Yes, you can prepare mentally for the next steps. Because losing your job can feel like rejection. You know what I'm saying? It can definitely feel like rejection. And it's important to process the emotions associated with that loss. Yes, with that loss. Let yourself feel all those feelings that you're feeling right now, because I can honestly say that when I had got let go from my job, I can honestly say, guys, I didn't have a feeling. I didn't have a feeling at all. You know what I'm saying? When they told me that, okay, we're going to let you go. And then he gave me the paperwork and everything. I was just looking at him like, okay. Like, I was stunned, but then again, I was just like, wow, after a while, and then I left. I gathered my things and then I left, and then I started walking down the street, and just like I said, I looked up at the sky, just be like, I don't believe that this is happening to me, and then all of a sudden, I just let go. I just let go, and then I just released. I just released and just let it all go. And then that's when I opened up gratitude. I opened up the gratitude. I opened up so much to it, and I was just so thankful that I had at least an opportunity to work, at the time. And and I was just like, well, you never know what lies before me. What's going to be on the other side of all of this. You know what I'm saying? Because, just like I said, it's like a feeling of rejection, and it is important to process those emotions. We have to process those emotions. We have to let ourselves feel all of those feelings because they are valid. They are valid. And of course, taking at least a day to process them all will give you the strength to take those next steps. Okay? They will give you a chance to take them if we can just give ourselves a chance to feel through it. And that's something that I can honestly say that I did. I felt through all those feelings. I had to feel through all those feelings for those couple of days, for me to go on to the next chapter. Because then then you can resist the urge, because if you do that, you can resist the urge to go, and send out, all those, I guess what you would say, in certain cases, it will resist the urge of doing something, some negative shit. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just give yourself time to feel through all of those feelings and emotions and just let it all out in your own spare time and take that break, then you can process it better. You can process what has happened to you in a better light. You know what I'm saying? So try to do that, guys. You know what I'm saying? Try to do that. And then you can start planning and strategizing, what types of jobs you really want. What type of avenue you really want to go. Because you never know. You might want to change careers, and you don't even know why, because if you don't give yourself time to feel through it, then you won't know all of this. You won't know what it is that, in fact, that you are supposed to do in your next life, in your next opportunity, or in your next position, and if you just sit down and really just process all of those things, it is best to start thinking ahead of time that when you do start applying for those jobs, that, when you get into that interview, you'll be ready to answer those questions. How can you explain, what you want to do next, or why is it that you left your job? It'll give you an opportunity to do all of those things if you just, take time, take a break, plan, and organize, guys. All right. So now step number 2, get the paperwork out of the way. Yes, get all of that paperwork. Just like I told you, my job had left me with, paperwork for unemployment, and then they also gave me a little severance pay I had to sign off, and also for medical, for the Cobra shit. You know what I'm saying? That expensive Cobra shit that I didn't take. But however, get the paperwork out of the way, because unfortunately there is a lot of paperwork associated with a layoff or getting fired. However, it's one of the most important items for what to do after that layoff or getting let go. And it's best to get it out of the way very quickly, guys. You want to get that out of the way very quickly, okay? So now, first things first, get your unemployment paperwork ready. Get your unemployment paperwork ready. And if the health insurance, Cobra stuff, get that paperwork filled out very quickly. And get it all squared away so that later on, you don't want to miss the time frame. You don't want to miss that window. So that's why it's so crucial to do this in the first week after everything, guys. Very crucial to do it, because once you do all those things, you'll feel better. You'll feel better immediately. You'll have a sense of comfort. You'll have a sense of security that you felt as though that you lost when you did get let go. Because some people, when they get let go, they feel like their rug has been swept up from under their feet. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, oh my God, my cushion is gone from myself. Or if it's just you yourself, your family as well. You know what I'm saying? So just get those things done immediately, without it hanging over your head, And it also, depending on your situation, just like I said, I got a little bit of severance pay, and, some employees, you get some employees that might extend the health because, they feel it's bad. They're like, okay, well, let them get the health for an extra month or two, but my employer, no, they said immediately my health and benefits was going to get cut off. You know what I'm saying? The only reason why, because that health insurance at my previous job was very expensive. So I can understand that, I understand that plight, as to paying out, because the employer had to pay for the health insurance. Just like I said, everyone situation is different. Not everyone has a situation, where the company can extend, that health insurance as well. However, you need to decide to handle it, sorting out health coverage right away or your unemployment. After all, you never know when you're going to need it. You know what I'm saying? You never know when you're going to need it. And especially with everything that's going on with, COVID-19, coronavirus, you never know when you're going to need it, because for one, certain states don't have any testing. And and if you get sick, you're going to need that health insurance. You know what I'm saying? Because them doctor bills can, run in the thousands, and some even in the millions. So just make sure that you get it together. Just make sure, guys. And even if you received a severance package, it's really good idea to keep this piece of the puzzle, figured out right away, since it can take several weeks for that unemployment check to kick in. You know what I'm saying? And especially now that we're in the pandemic right now, a lot of people, I've been reading, a lot of people are still waiting for their unemployment. You know what I'm saying? So just make sure, if you do get that severance pay, just make sure you stretch it out as much as you can. But if you can't, then just be aware that, your unemployment compensation may take a while, for it to kick in. You know what I'm saying? But, of course, just check with your state. And just to see how long, in fact, it will take when you do apply for your unemployment. All right. So, just get all that paperwork and everything out of the way, guys, and you'll be better off in the end once you do that. All right. So now step number 3. Now, rework your resume. Write a cover letter too as well. Because whether you hope to jump back into the same role as before, if you want to do the same position that you did before, or if you plan to make a career change, just like I stated before, me, I'm making a career change. I'm going back to school. Yes, I am. When things open back up, I'm going back to school, and I will let y'all know later on what I'm going back to school for once I get accepted. But however, yes, just rework all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Because every job search requires a resume refresh. You know what I'm saying? We need to do that. We need to sometimes look over our resume, maybe take some shit out, stuff that we had in the previous job, or add, because we may think of all the things that we have done in that previous job that we have got let go, and we can just add like all of that stuff within that resume. Because after a layoff, or being let go, spend a day creating an updated resume that reflects your skills and experience you learned in your most recent role. If you don't know where to start, consider putting a resume builder to use. You know what I'm saying? Because they have so many, they have so many resume builders online that you can use, for free, and then you have some that, of course, you have to pay to do that. You can build your resume off of that, off of your experience, wherever possible, wherever, you do it or wherever you use it, include all of your accomplishments in it as well. Try to update it, refresh it, make it different than what it was before. Try to make it stand out, because this step is very crucial. It's very crucial. And, never more important than after, a layoff or being let go. When you are eager to prove your value to that new employer, once you start putting your resume and cover letters and everything out there, and of course, when you're eager to, prove, who you are, to that new employer or to that new company that you are trying to get into. So you want to do something new, try a new approach, because if you need to help, coming up, I guess, with accurate accomplishments and, different things that you have done related to your last job, if you are still in good graces with your former employer, contact them and let them know, and just say, hey, I want to add, some of the things that I used to do. Is it okay if I use you as a reference? Is it okay that I can, add some, information that I did on this project that we worked on? Give them a heads up. Let them know that you're going to do that. Because I know when I left my job, my manager said, don't forget, use me as a reference. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put her down as a reference, if and when, if I do need to, use her as a reference, because I have so many references to use, outside of, just using them as well. So, in the end, you can end the call, once you call them, by telling them that you are actively job searching since you were let go from them, and that you want to ask if they are, willing to, allow them to use them as a reference, so just try to do that. Try your best to, reach out. You never know. You never know what you're going to get. But however, take the time to do this on, step 3, because once again, it is very crucial to, write a refreshed resume and a fresh cover letter that highlights and expands upon the skills and experience in your resume. So you want to make sure that everything, it ties in together. Want to make sure that everything ties in together. All right. So now step number 4. Now we're going to get into step number 4. Use your freedom wisely. Okay. So you want to use your freedom wisely, guys. Okay. All right. So now, it is often hard to relax and enjoy yourself during, being let go or a layoff. Money might be tight right now for some, just like I was saying earlier. It might get a little tough, might be tight, or the stress of the job search, let alone, could be, taking a toll on you, taking a toll on your mental health. It could be weighing you down, at times, because, you're putting your resume out there and cover letters out there, and you're getting feedback of, shit. You know what I'm saying? You're not qualified. We have, selected another candidate, although your experience has been, interesting, but the qualifications, yada, 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 all of that stuff that they say, in regards to the feedback. You know what I'm saying? But however, it is wise to do your best to try to enjoy this time away from that daily grind. You know what I'm saying? From that daily grind, from that everyday daily grind. If you have the money to travel, some people have some money stashed, some companies give, money from their sick time or vacation time, they give them that, they cash out on that as well. And, some people use that money to just travel. If you do have those means, by also do it now. Do it now. But I know that, right now that we're in the pandemic, it's kind of hard to travel, because certain things are not open. But since it is this time, like that, then by all means, take some time out for yourself. Take advantage of this break to get back in shape as well. I know I'm doing that a lot. And or use it to, free time, your free time to take an online course and learn a new skill. Just like I said, I'm going back to school. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be learning new skills. And, I'm also learning free stuff as well. There are a lot of free programs out there that you can use and utilize. YouTube, for example, has a lot of free programs, free stuff that you can learn how to do from the comfort of your home. Because, guys, you also have to remember staying positive and productive during a layoff is very crucial. And the reason why it's crucial, because it helps you perform well when you do get that job interview, so that when you do go into that place of business, that employer, you will feel so refreshed and you will feel anew, and you will be, you'll have more confidence inside of you, once you, use that freedom and take the time for yourself and, get your mental health together as well. So try to take that time, try to take that time, because you will get a new job eventually. If you want to, get a new job, you will get a new job. You will get something new. In fact, most job seekers find a new role within 6 weeks of launching a job search. It is possible that you can find a job. You know what I'm saying? It is possible. It is possible. You know what I'm saying? So just try to follow these steps on how to find a job after being laid off. And you'll have the best chance of getting hired quickly while staying sane in the process, guys. Yes. All right. So now the last and final crucial step, guys. Now listen to this. I really want you all to listen to this step, guys. I really do. I really want you all to catch your breath. Catch your breath and deal with your feelings. Yes. Catch your breath, guys. Because you probably could be very angry right now and teed off. You know what I'm saying? Because just like I said, I was eventually. Thought about everything. You know what I'm saying? I thought about everything. I thought about how it went down. You know what I'm saying? I thought about how all that shit went down. And just like I said, I was a write-off. You know what I'm saying?
so fucking motherfucker.
Yes, I was a write-off, and the reason why I say I was a write-off is because of this pandemic. You know, what could a better way be than to let someone go and count it off as a loss? You know, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. And, you know, just like I said, you know, you probably could be angry, hurt, scared, discouraged, and you can get depressed too as well. You know, or some can be very detrimental to some, you know, especially during this time, during this, you know, pandemic. It could be very traumatic for some, you know. And some, it may just take just a little while just to, you know, get it out of their system of their feelings, you know, or how to deal with their feelings. I know it took me a little while, but eventually I got over it because I'm like, shoot, I'm home now. I got what I asked for. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and another thing, you know, you keep on asking for it, you just might get it all. And that's what happened to me. I can honestly say I asked for all of this. What I'm doing right now, I asked for all of this. I manifested it. You know what I'm saying? I manifested all of this. This is something that I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to do all of this. I wanted to stay home so that I can do my podcasting. I wanted to stay home so that I can finish my EP. I wanted to stay home so I can spend more time with my family and see my grandbabies. And that's what I did. And, you know, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. And, you know, but for some, you know, people say, well, I asked for all of this, but I didn't, you know, ask for no money at all. You know, so that's why I said, be careful what you ask for, you know, because it can be a grieving process. It can be as if you lost someone, you know, for some, it could be like that because it's like it's a loss. It's a loss. It's a rejection. It's a no. You know, it's a, you know, those feelings can set in. You know, you can deal with the feelings, but the feelings that set in can get you to the point to where it's just like, man, you know, am I even good enough? You know, maybe I shouldn't be applying for these types of jobs anymore because they just laid me off, you know, and I just got let go. So I might not be even fit for, you know, that quest into looking for the same opportunity as I had before. You know, sometimes our job is our identity. You know what I'm saying? Take a day or a week off, you know, to cry. You know, sometimes we need to cry. Sometimes we need to get it all out. I'm talking to anyone, male or female. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we need to get that shit out. We need to get it out. We need to get those feelings. We need to deal with them head on. Because if it helps, you know, and it does help many people, dump your anger onto paper. You know what I'm saying? Write that shit out. Write it out. Type it out if even. I know that's what I like to do a lot. I love typing it out. Even if sometimes the words don't even make sense. Even if sometimes the words don't even make sense. You know, I just try to do that. You know, I try to get rid of it to the point so it doesn't sabotage, my job search endeavors. I have to. You have to do that. We have to do that because it can sabotage them. You go into that place of business and then you're still having those feelings, those same feelings that you felt when you got let go, when that manager told you such and such. I'm sorry, unfortunately, we have to let you go. You still see that person's face. And then when you're going into that job, you're still having those same ill feelings. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's always good to just let it all out. Let out all those feelings. Then unless unless you do this, then it will be more beneficial for you for the healing process. So that when you do go out there and look for work, and then if in fact you do, then you'll have a clear frame of mind when you start doing that. And, if you can afford to be unemployed, there are some people who can afford to be unemployed, can just stay home for a couple of months and move on with your life and career. Like myself, I moved on. I just moved on. I can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? But eventually I have moved on with my life and my career. You have to move on. You have to. And another thing that you should all do, this is just my opinion, take a few moments to count your blessings every single day. Every single day, take a few moments to count your blessings. Because yes, of course, a layoff or being fired or let go or whatever, it feels like a sharp blow to your ego for some. And it is. It is. Yes, it is. But you have many blessings in your life, guys. You have so many blessings in your life. We all do. Yes, we do. Some can say, well, I don't see many blessings right now because I don't have any income to pay for the next whatever, or I don't have any income to, to get food or to do things that I need to do for myself or for my family. What am I supposed to do? But we have to sit down and remember those blessings. We have to remember those blessings. Because when I was let go, when I was fired from my job, I would name them in my head before I went to sleep to stop the voices in my head telling me I would never find a job. I had to name each one of them. I had to sit down and just name them. And, at first I had to do that constantly. And then eventually I stopped. But, I still do it from now and again when I do feel those, those thoughts coming in my mind. I really had to name them in my head. All those feelings that I felt, I had to put a name to them. So that I can stop the voices, so I can stop those things, those negative thoughts in my mind from telling me that I'm not good enough. You know what I'm saying? Because you are good enough. You can still do it. You can still find another job. No matter how miserable a day has been, remembering those blessings keeps your spirits up. Hopefully you will be helped too, if you just do those things. Try to deal with your feelings head on when you're feeling, and this can be just for anything in life. If you went through anything traumatic in your life, try to deal with those feelings head on, guys. Try to deal with them head on as soon as they happen. And most of the blessings that I am thankful for: a safe and warm, dry place to sleep, a roof over my head, family members who love me, and friends who will give me moral support and encouragement, food, water, electricity, telephone, internet, and on and on and on, guys. That's just for me. That's just my blessings and what I am thankful for on a day-to-day basis for me. You get the idea, guys. You get the idea. We all have many blessings we are usually too busy to notice and appreciate. So that's why it's always good to deal with those feelings. And then once we deal with those feelings head on, then take a few moments to count all of the blessings that you have in your life, guys. Try to do it today. And in the end, it will be helpful and work for you to its fullest advantage for you guys. All right, guys. Now for the number one tip. Now this is the number one tip that I got from, all of this. Now, strangely, being laid off can be a good thing. You never know. It could be a good thing. We often stay in jobs we do not like, right? Right. To be out of inactivity too. We can be too busy or not even quite unhappy enough to make that effort to move on and finally say good riddance and leave that job. It is not until a fire is put up under our ass and say, hey, we have to let you go. Because a layoff pushes us out of the nest, the comfort zone that we are so used to going to each and every day. It pushes us out into an involuntary job search. It just catapults us out there, to look for a job. Which you never know. And once that opportunity happens, it can lead to a better job. A better promotion, a better career, and even, you never know, even more money, or even in certain cases, you never know. It could be even more happiness, guys. So that's why it is really up to us. It is really up to us to just basically try our best to, find our way in the midst out of all of the trouble and all of the confusion and all of the misunderstanding of trying to figure out, why in fact we got laid off, guys. How and why, when, Let's try our best to do that, guys. And then we will make it through. We will either make it through all of this and find new work, or, we will just be doing something beyond our wildest dreams, guys. Yes, beyond our wildest dreams. Yes, guys. Yes. All right, guys. So now I want to say to you all, that if you enjoyed, yes, if you enjoyed that commentary, guys, by all means, yes, leave this sister right here a 5-star rating. Yes, leave me a 5-star rating, guys. And also leave me a review. Yes, leave me a review. And also follow me on my social media. Yes, follow me on Instagram at CreativeLipsPodcast. Yes. Follow me on Twitter at CreativeLipsPod. Yes, follow me there too, guys. Come on. Yes, because I post stuff there too, guys. All right. Hang in there, guys. All right. Until next time. You are now listening to episode 41 of the Creative Lips Podcast.